Hey guys, it's Amanda. I wanted to talk to you today about 5 negative and harmful methods that we tend to turn to when stressed. The first method is turning to alcohol. This could be coming home and having a beer or two, or going and hanging out at the bar for a while. The second method could be turning to drugs, whether recreational, hard drugs, pills, whatever we're using is blocking our mind from being able to make really valid and confident decisions. Another method could be overeating or a lack of eating, depending on the person and how we deal with stress, depression, and anxiety. We may turn to food to cover those issues that we're dealing with, or we may push food away. For me personally, when I'm extremely stressed, I tend not to eat as much, but it just depends on the person. The fourth method that we could turn to could be overexertion. This could look like somebody who is just constantly on the go, kind of doesn't give themselves a break. They're going from work to home to sporting events, church events, working out, doing more work, then sleeping for a little bit. Every person is a little different, but mostly anybody who really is overexerting themselves they're normally fatigued and maybe a little bit emotionless. And the fifth reason could be physical harm. This could look like cutting or burning yourselves. Normally, we see this in younger children or like teenagers rather than adults, but it does happen. Now that I've given you the 5 most commonly known negative methods, I really want to share with you a personal experience that really fits in with the topic that I'm discussing. And so I'm just going to jump right into it. When I was 16, I was dealing with a lot of stress, and I was dealing with things like trying to get my driver's license, making sports teams, trying to keep my grades up, dealing with everyday drama at school, maybe dealing with a boy, and then dealing with like your standardized testing that we have to go through at that time, and it's just kind of a stressful time. And on top of that, my dad and my stepmom, who I consider my stepmom to be my mom and my best friend, they were going through a rough time. They were saying that they were getting divorced, and at that time, I could not handle that. So at 16, I turned to alcohol, and I drank almost every day for 2 years. And it wasn't that I was drinking a lot, it was just that I was consistently drinking every day. And so, right before I graduated from high school, I told my parents what I was dealing with, and they helped me get on a better path until I moved away. I moved to Mount Pleasant and went to Central Michigan University. And when I got over there, I started right back up in the party scene, and I started to dip into some more drugs. I was smoking weed and taking some pills. But at the time, it was really more the drinking than anything. By the end of the school year, I was academically dismissed and had to move back home, and that was just added stress. When I moved back home, my parents were very disappointed in me, as most parents would be. And as children, we don't want to disappoint our parents, and so at this time, I just felt like nothing could really go right. And so instead of giving up on school, I actually enrolled myself into MCC and attended classes there a couple days a week and got myself a job. But my job was at a bar. And at the bar, a lot of the people that worked there were dealing with drinking, and some of them were into pills. And at this time, I just didn't want to deal with some of the stress I was dealing with. And so when I was at work, I was always drinking. And when I wasn't at work, I was taking pills. And so Basically, at this time, between the ages of 20 and 23, if I wasn't drinking, I was doing something to get high. And so for about 3.5 years there, I really wasn't on a good streak. I was drunk, I was high. There were days that I wouldn't sleep. I stopped coming home. I wasn't myself anymore. And about 4 years ago, my parents found my stash of pills, and my parents forced me to go into detox, and which I did the detox at home, but it obviously isn't a very fun process, but it was something that I'm glad that my parents put me through and were still there to love and support me. And then 3.5 years ago, I went to a church event with my mom, and it was a women's outreach event. And one of the ladies, her testimony just really, really hit me, and I knew something needed to change. Now, that night after the event, I went out to the bar with some of my friends and drank. But then the next morning when I woke up, there was just something weighing me down that really kind of, I guess in a sense you could say it was God, just spoke to me and said that I needed to change. And so I talked with my mom and told her that I just really wanted to stop drinking. And I talked to my boyfriend at the time, who offered to not drink either. And so 3.5 years ago, I got myself completely clean and sober, and I have not had a drink since. I do not take any pills unless they are prescribed to me, and I will only take them if they're not addictive. So if it's like painkillers, I won't take them, but anything, an antidepressant, birth control, those types of things I'll take. But other than that, I really have gotten to a point where I hate taking pills because of how addictive they can be. But I really wanted to share this experience with you because it's something that I turn to because of stress, and it's something that we see in so many people around us, whether it's drinking or drugs or overeating or lack of eating. We know somebody who does one of these 5 things that I pointed out at the beginning of this video to deal with stress. And so through this video, I hope that you've learned something, and maybe you've realized that something that you do is really a negative method to stress. And so I encourage you to find a good method to deal with stress, whether it's working out, reading a good book, kind of just taking a moment to watch an episode to wind down, doing something that is healthy for you but isn't too overdone to make it unhealthy. But I hope that you learned something through this video, whether it's through my personal experience or something else that I've talked about. And I encourage you to watch or go through the visual presentation on Prezi that I made. It just kind of goes over the 5 different areas that we see around us that are normally negative or harmful methods of dealing with stress. Thanks again, guys.